It feels like it's been forever since I released my last video. I wasn't taking a break, I got really distracted with a project and also really sick, but here we are, and a BG3 related video too. Patch 4 was released a week ago I think, and it comes with so many changes, I had a hard time reading them all. But fear not, dear viewer, because I did read them all. I went through the entire changelog for patch 4, so you don't have to. A few changes really stuck out to me, things not shown in the highlights, and I want to share those with you. Just a fair warning, this will include spoilers from the various points in the game, as the changes cover all 3 acts. If you have not finished the game yet, don't say I didn't warn you. I will try to keep the spoilers to a minimum though, in case you happen to skip around a lot. There are 3 main categories of changes I want to talk about. They are balance, gameplay, and story. So starting off with the balance stuff. This is a pretty big balance change, and you've probably seen it somewhere else, but I had to include it because it is important. Offhand attacks with ranged weapons don't get the dexterity damage bonus unless you have a dual wielder feat. You've probably seen this reported, like I said, in other videos and whatnot, but this was a big source of cheese because hand crossbows were kind of busted for a while, and it looks like Larian finally took notice. It's so important in fact that it was listed twice in the changelog. In the same vein, Spell Might gloves were nerfed, or I guess fixed, to only work on spells that require an attack roll. So no more Uber Magic Missile Gale, and kind of sad honestly, but it is what it is. Now, Failure Louvre, or however you say it, which was also used to do some cheesy stuff with the buffs or debuffs it did, it was similarly touched on, so now you have to actually have it equipped on you to use the effects. If you unequip it, that won't really do anything and the effects will go away. In general gameplay changes, Cazador and Roland received some new love. Kaz in particular has a few changes throughout the changelog, though from what I've experienced, his fight and his encounter in general is more or less still the same after patch 4. Roland, aka the NPC with the best story arc in the game, got some attention also. Though, again, it's nothing major and not super noticeable. But did you know that he has a unique spell, or maybe even a bunch of spells he can do? Neither did I, and apparently he will use those spells in Act 3 now. In my test run, he slipped on ice and fell, doing nothing for the entire combat, which is actually kind of in character for him. Now, gameplay. Paladins have some instances where their oath is taken into account, versus where it wasn't done so in the previous patches. Which is awesome because I love Paladins and find them to be incredibly fun to roleplay and use mechanically. Speaking of, the scene you are looking at right now is new in patch 4 as well. The hyena actually behaves like it's in pain rather than just lying around comatose. Another change is our best boy Scratch now properly handles pointing out hidden stuff without repeating it. Though I am not sure if this applies to just him doing it to the same thing over and over, or something else. In my test save, he was still pointing out things I have previously discovered, but maybe you have to start a new game. Honestly, not 100% sure on this one. Araj Abladora, I think that's how you say her name, the creepy and oddly attractive merchant drow you can meet in Act 2, no longer sells a duplicate of the graceful cloth. And this isn't exactly a duplicate since the effects of the 2 items are different, even though they have the same name and the same sprite. In my save, she is still selling the item, so I imagine you have to roll back to a previous save or have not met her before. And this one is a kind of a big one because I made a guide about this. Duke Ravengard, when you meet him in the Iron Throne, no longer has his stuff with him, his armor and sword. In my guide, you could basically take his stuff and toss it on the ground and pick it up later. And sadly, that's no longer possible, but hey, it didn't really make much sense for him to have it in the first place since he was imprisoned there. The next one is kind of minor, but I have known a player who went in blind and then messed this up and wondered what was going on. The pressure plate in this dude's basement in Act 3 can no longer be disarmed. So what happened is that if you disarmed it, it basically either locked you in the secret room it connects to, or locked you out with no way getting inside. In my save it's still disarmable, but I'm guessing that's because it requires either a new game or maybe to be in Act 2 or something. These last two are fairly related to one another, so NPCs in Lower City will move back into position if something moved them elsewhere, like Magical Darkness for example. This is a cool change because often NPCs would just like move around and like be completely out of position if you stole from them a bunch. And speaking of stealing, if guards show up, they actually, will do some investigating. You can proclaim your innocence also without actually lying to them or doing a check. Pretty cool change in my opinion because this wasn't possible before from what I recall. They are also supposed to patrol for longer, but I believe it's only if you're not around. It did seem like they left in a hurry once they questioned my character, but like I said, it might be that you can't be present or they don't find anything before moving on. And finally, story stuff. Probably the most spoiler section here, so beware, please. Starting off with a very soft spoiler, you can tell Volo that removing the parasite is not possible if you've previously discovered it, though in actuality it doesn't make much difference to him. Still, it's a fairly cool detail that wasn't present before, and it did make me wonder why I couldn't just tell him that I can't remove the parasite, or rather, he can't remove it because nobody can remove it. The next one is actually something that really threw me off during my playthrough. If you're a good guy and if you try to redeem Catherine during your first encounter, or I guess second, at the tower, and then in your final encounter at the colony, the cutscene plays out in a very janky manner if you try to redeem him again. It was really weird and choppy with how it was handled, and I'm still not entirely sold on the transition that they have now in patch 4, but it is a huge improvement over the previous version. I hope that they may go back and retouch it just a little bit more. And finally, I saved the most interesting thing for last. Also huge spoilers. Shadowheart will go to Avernus with Karlach and Will, if she promised to do so. I don't have footage of this because I couldn't replicate it. Perhaps this is talking about a player character using Shadowheart or playing as Shadowheart, or maybe there is some interaction with her that I have not discovered. For example, maybe letting her parents go, or rather, not getting her family back together. I am not sure what this is referring to, and I would be really curious to know. If you have any ideas, or maybe you already know how this works, please let me know, and, I would appreciate it. But that is everything. There were other changes I didn't get to cover, and they're buried deep in the labyrinthine maze of the changelog for patch 4.0. And, again, Larian keeps updating their game, and their changelogs are gigantic. So it's nice to see them actually taking care of the issues and the bugs, and I hope that they continue to do so, for quite a while. I don't know how long, but until the game is really and truly fixed. But for me, that's everything. If you had a change that I didn't talk about, that you really liked, or maybe didn't like, put it in the comments. Thanks for watching. See you next one. Bye.